I'm laughing at my own jokes, and I'm all by myself.
And I was muted. I couldn't hear anything, so no, I'm muting myself.
I said good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I was doing the Truman Show today, but how is everybody doing? I'm gonna probably be popping in and out as usual because of the internet, and I'm here with Terry Smith, and we have our guest today, Miss Dana Louise. We met at the Journey to the Truth. Why am I saying that? Well, Full Disclosure Now conference with Brian Singh and Ida.
Yeah.
And you were right there next to Brooks Agnew with your books and your table, and you got a chance to speak. I don't even know how did you find the conference, and how did the conference find you? How did that all work out? I don't know.
I gotta talk up here. So, you're now the red dot, my camera. The conference found me, and thank you to Brian, because like I've been on other podcasts and stuff like that, and I think people are like, oh, connect, and so he reached out to me and asked me to be there. And so I was there, and I think I was out of place and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, like, but kind of actually, because I don't disclose myself so much. So, but I was actually in place because speakers and everything like that. I'm like, oh my God, it was an education for me. So I'm just going to start off with saying that the Full Disclosure Now conference is amazing, and it's what really needs to happen. And then I saw you around and about and everything, but I'm kind of shy, even though I'm outgoing, but I don't want to like imply myself on people. And you can't. I think you came to my talk and everything like that, and you're just such a kind heart. And so you were just a welcome space for me. And I don't mean to cry. I'm gonna start to cry because I needed connection too. And so thank you so much. I super appreciate it. You, Jonah Hart, and some of these other people, like, there was so much heart at this conference and so much truth. And it was just such uplifting possibilities there going on. And so anybody that's interested, next year, go to the conference and everything. So I'm just so glad to meet you. And thank you for extending yourself to me, because that's awesome. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I guess I saw you sitting at the tables, and there's these gigantic tables with 12 seats, and then it's like 4 people, and you're like, no, you don't have to sit at this tiny 2 people table. Come sit with us. And so I know that kind of got the ball rolling, and then you gave me a copy of your book.
Yeah, I mean, you're just such a sweetheart and everything. And yeah, I just wanted to extend myself to you and extend my story. And I didn't like know you, fully. I just knew you. You had a name tag, you showed up, you were at my talk and everything like that, and you were just so beautiful and kind. And so I wanted to extend myself to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. We see Sybil in the audience. Holy cow. So Sybil, it looks like you changed your hair and your icon. You're looking really good, girl. And then we got Matthew and hopefully Honora. Yeah.
Veronica.
And Veronica, she said, I can't wait. I know I can't wait to get back with Veronica on Friday too. I'm looking forward to that Friday night for the singles. But about you, I mean, you can really got some bragging rights as a boomer, because you're like one of the hottest, sexiest boomers out there. So it's like, what? You're like, because we were reading your book and it had, was it Nixon in it?
Yes.
And I'm like, does not compute. Like, did not really necessarily compute.
Like, here, let me bring it up so people can see it right now. And I don't know. Okay, so this is my name tag. I was 8 years old. This is It says president. This is the craziest name tag ever, right? Like usually it just says hello, but presidential visit, Rochester, Minnesota, has the date, special guest, and my name, blah blah blah, and yeah. So like, I'm really weird.
That's okay. Just relax. So you were at this event. You were actually kind of put in this position by your parents, by your father in particular, for some reason.
Right.
So
yeah.
So
oh God,
I guess I want to set this up as in how this gets started.
I know. Well, thank you so much. And because here's the deal. Like after I wrote my book and came out and all this kind of stuff, then I think this CIA guy gave me a file of my dad. I have it right here also. La la la. I can show you. It's on my Facebook and all this kind of stuff. But so I feel like some CIA people are coming forward and disclosing stuff, you know, like so when this name tag happened, yeah, I was 8 years old. My parents took me out of school. We went to the Rochester airport. Out, you know, here comes Air Force One, and people were like, "Are you making it up?" It's always like, "You're making it up. You're delusional. You're schizophrenic. You're on drugs," and all these kinds of things. And this is what I want to say to you. I have witnesses for almost everything that I say. I stand in my truth. I stand in my truth. I'm going to say it again. I stand in my truth, and I can back it up.
Well, don't feel like you have to prove yourself today, because it's not like an inquisition type thing.
I know. Not with you guys. Not with you guys.
Right,
But why I'm saying this is because I think you guys get me. That's why I'm saying it's like, this has been so heartbreaking for me, because it's kind of like, I'm standing in my truth, and we're all standing in our truth. And I got the receipts. I got the receipts, bitches. And so, and after my book came out, the CIA guy gave me a file on my dad saying that he was at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and talking to NASA. God, there's just so much disclosure. And it's just recently been since this spring, just so overwhelming and so settling for me, because it's all the things that I thought, knew, and sensed, as an empath. Like, I know these things. And so to have them be settled. But okay, so here we have the name tag. And my voice said to me at the time, I'm 8 years old. Okay. It's 1970. And it said, keep the name tag, keep the name tag. So there's like something that was setting up my entire story the whole time. Like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I was like, you're just a kid. What do you know? So recently I wrote a book, blah, blah, blah. And after I wrote the book, the voice said again to me, go look at the presidential diaries. And I was like, presidential diaries? What are the presidential diaries? I have no idea. And so I started to Google. And so I looked at Nixon and that day, and I went to that day. I also did a weather search, because I'm like, I remember that day being drizzly and gray, just to make sure that I'm clicking, because I like to vet everything that's happened to me. I'm just going to say, I'm not a person to say like, oh, this happened and that's how it is. No, I want to say, I'm going to make sure that this isn't delusional or illusional or whatever, but that it's corporeal and it's real. So I looked on all cylinders that I could for that particular day. And the interesting thing is, because, okay, on that day, I'm 8 years old. What grade am I in? I don't even know. First grade, I think. And my parents took me to the Rochester airport. I get the name tag, special guest, presidential visit, really, brought out to the tarmac. Up comes Air Force One. Out pops Pat Nixon and Richard Nixon. Pat Nixon walks up to me, hands me a single red rose. So here I am writing my book. I'm like, oh my God, now I'm like playing these scenarios back again in my brain. I'm like, oh my God, that's an Illuminati. that's a Templar, that's a Masonic symbol to be handed a single long stem red rose. And it's like, whoa. And that's where there's like, you got to go into the presidential diaries. I'm like, what? What is that? And so I looked, and I do have it printed up. Pat Nixon is not on the manifest, the airplane manifest for Airport One, or for the Air Force One for that day under the presidential diaries. I don't know if that makes sense, but she didn't exist that day. And I'm like, wow, that's even more weird, because every person, every silly person on that airplane, in case the airplane went down, would be on the manifest. They would have to look for that person should the airplane go down, right? Like 32 people. Pat Nixon is not on the manifest. Anyway, and so then, I went into the Eisenhowers and Laura Eisenhower and all these kinds of things. Like, I tripped down many rabbit holes and all this kind of stuff. But
let me stop you, because what drove you to go to the diaries? So you're saying this was just a thought, a feeling,
yeah,
as you began to watch other things happening?
This was during when I was writing the book. So
okay, you did more research.
Right. So this is just recent. And so many things came to light. I don't know. It's kind of like you have these, this is why I wrote it. So I'm 62 years old. I'm kind of like, my sons don't even have like legitimate engagements to be married, grandchildren, any of these kinds of things. I don't know. And my grandmother perished when she was about my age, and it's kind of like she had the gift. And so 5 years ago now, more than 5 years ago now, before the pandemic, it was like 2019, I sold my company and I did everything, and I set out on this path because I'm like, this is a big deal. This is some real stuff, Dana. And I didn't know at the time that I would be handed a CIA classified file, which just recently happened in February, about my dad. I didn't know about all these different disclosures. I really didn't understand my participation in the space programs and all these kinds of things. I had always sequestered myself and my thoughts and about other people and all these. I just really kept cloistered, and I knew I had to do that because there was a part of me that's like, you have a story here and you don't want to be interfered with by other mental issues or implants. I mean, I hope, and I know, and I think your audience will understand that, because you can be influenced, So I really tried to stay clean and pure and all these kinds of things until I could represent my story of what happened to me, as dear and near as, I don't want to cry, as much as my grandmother's story, because it's, a lot. And so, I wrote the book and all these kinds of things, and all these layers started to unfold. And the voice said to me, look, Richard, look the date up. I mean, that's literally how the voice said it, like, look the date up. So I went into October of 1970 and I looked the date up, and Richard Nixon, and what happened that date. And I found the manifest of that, of what happened that date on their junket, which was political. And and my parents were involved politically and all these kinds of things. And it's like, why was, like all these adults here, I'm an 8-year-old, and why was I, because people were like, oh, Air Force One, you were brought out to a tarmac on Air Force One. Yeah, here, look, I got the name tag. But secondarily, you could go into KSTP, WCCO, I don't even care who, on this date, and you can find that there were news reports. I was on the radio, all these kinds of things. And that's the particular thing about me. And I always said to myself, why have I had so many witnesses to the things that have happened to me? Which has been heartening. I almost like it's God, source, whatever you want to say. It's just kind of like a lot of these things have been very upsetting to me, but there have been witnesses, and legitimately I always said, why with the witnesses? And the voice was always like, because otherwise you would negate it, delete it, wouldn't believe it, remember it, all these kinds of things, that it was very necessary for me to have witnesses. And true, because I'd rather deny it. Because the things that I've gone through and the things that I've done and how I am, and I'm just going to disclose that, and who and how I am, I don't tell many people because it's weird. It's hard to come out and say these things, but I feel like today, and I had hoped as a child that I would be able to come forward. I'm talking 3, 4, 5 years old. I understood what was going on in this planet. I was very much aware and awake, and it's been a long time coming. That's why I'm crying and a little bit emotional. I don't mean to do that, because normally I don't cry.
I just want you to take your time, because I feel like maybe like it's a little overwhelming. It might make you a little nervous or a little upset, but I guess what Terry and I were talking about today is how grateful we are to have people to talk to that do understand us, that aren't going to like try to poke holes or negate us, but that allow us to be who we are. So I'm gonna just ask you, like, I don't know, Terry, if you wanna like do a little meditation or like a breathing exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dana, and to people who are watching, this is a very challenging, just overwhelming with the energy that around you, right? Because it's a lot for you to talk about. So why don't we just sort of like take a breath in and just settle into our heart space, into the center of our heart, and just breathe through the space in the heart. And as you're breathing in, just feel the energy coming in through the crown and moving down through your crown, through the third eye, through your throat, through your heart, and then sending it out. And as you do that, it's going to just calm you, and you're going to just feel centered, and just from the heart now, just feel your energy connecting with the earth, and breathing down through your feet, down to the earth. And then as you breathe in, just breathing up the energy through the earth to the heart, and then out through the heart, and just being surrounded by this bubble of just the heart energy. And you have the connection with the cosmic energy and with the earth energy, and it's just gently surrounding you, and you're just floating in this bubble of peace and tranquility.
And
any other foreign energies are not going to be able to penetrate it.
Right.
I'm gonna start to ask you some questions so we can get like a timeline chronologically. And I think what I would start with is, in the book, you have your childhood experience, but what leads to us becoming or discovering how deeply strange these childhood experiences are. You had an incident with your friend and you saw an implant fall out. What were you doing on that day when you saw this object with your friend?
Nothing. I'm just being a mom. This is 1990s. I'm just being a mom. I'm like, this is just pretty much how my entire life is. when all these things happen. Yes. So an implant came out of my neck and was witnessed by another person. My son, I'm like, how do I start my book? I can't just sit there and go, here I am. I'm this person in suburbia, blah, 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 blah. That's boring. No one will read it. And he's like, Tarantino it. So I'm like, okay. So like pick a chapter that's somewhat exciting or interesting. And I'm like, oh, this is a breezy, easy one. I mean, because what's not a breezy, easy one was when I was at an event where I transformed the entire event. That's like 100 people, like a event room, like such as you and I were at with the disclosure event. And I transformed it like a hologram, like a holodeck. Like the host was transformed, the walls were transformed, all these kinds of things. This is the world that I actually live in. This is the world that people don't want to accept or believe in or whatever, unless they know me, unless you're near me, unless you read my book, and my book will activate you because there's things in the book, because it's thought, word, and deed. And people need to understand that thought, word, and deed is your prayer. And that is a part of you becoming, creating a creator. So what I bring to people is what I say, your whole holy self, your whole holy human. And that's what I tried to bring to people, because I think that is what we're being shut down by. And that is my path is, and legitimately Laura Eisenhower even like looked up my horoscope and she's like, oh my God, your book like activates people. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because they'll message me like in Facebook, like, oh my God, I started to read your book. And then my grandmother visited me, or a UFO book that I was missing for 10 years landed on this chair. And I woke up this morning like, did you do that? Did you activate that? And, there's a huge part of me. This is everything a part of me. I always say like, no, I didn't. But Laura will say that's baloney, because it legitimately is who and how I am. And I don't want to like, and I'm a Reiki master teacher, all these kinds of weird things. I don't even know what to say, but it's kind of like, I'm trying to bring the truth of we are part of creation. We are creators, and we've been shut down systematically to not understand who and how we are. And we are whole, holy humans. And so if the negative side, however you want to describe that, or whatever you want to describe that as, if they are free to use their, I don't know how to, actually elements, we have been programmed and systematically shut down so that we don't. And for me, that is the ruse, and that is part of the problem, because we are a part of creation. We are a creator. And so we need to create, and we need to be a part of that. So that's hugely my message, because I've witnessed this since infancy, when the Greys first started to visit me and all these things. So I've watched since 1962, this freaking planet being gaslit. And it's very upsetting to me. And so that's my message, is like how to bring the truth out and the true voice of what's truly going on, and how to help others be whole, holy human. So that's my message.
Right. So, and as the things are happening to you over time, you're feeling like you're aware this whole time. Something is strange. Something's not right. This isn't, these kind of weird things are not supposed to happen.
Right. But I know that who and how I am is weird also. Mm-hmm. So people are always like, oh, you're a starseed. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not that. I'm like, I'm different. Because I'm trying to start to own who and how I am, which is just as difficult. And yeah, so I just kind of like, I don't try to go into that because people are like, oh, are you a healer and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I try to negate my path basically. So I just try to like open up my voice to tell others, because I feel like this is the safest place for me to be. It's just like, you know, you're being gaslit. This is not the true story. This is not who you are. Because so many of the every religious path I've ever studied, and I studied them all, is like I want to bring to people, as I just said, I want to make them whole, holy humans, because we're being closed down and they use us energetically. And that is the true, some people call it a spiritual warfare or whatever, but that is also what can make this planet at times make us be sequestered to other entities' needs and wants. If that makes any sense. I'm sorry, I get a little weird.
Makes sense. So when you feel like this is what we need to do, how do you suggest we go about it? How do we remain in our own space, sovereign, taking control,
Yes.
being aware and alert, and making sure that we are not taking off of our trajectory and being taken out of our purpose? How do you suggest that? I mean, and how do you promote that besides the book? Or is it the book, or is it telling your story? Is it making sure that you talk to how do you go about
yeah, my book is just my book, which people say, oh, it's activating or something. No, my book simply only encompasses me in my whole holy humanness, in thought, word, and deed. So if you want to walk into my realm and be into my vibration, read the book, and this will activate those things. However, what I'm trying to say is that is how we all are as sovereign beings. And we need to know that, because I get upset when people are like, I'm like, Lucy down the street will pray, but Lucy down the street will pray for Cindy, but Lucy can't handle thinking that her prayer helped Cindy's cancer. You know what I mean?
I love that, because you got into that with all the things that you truly, truly believed about spirits, energy, and things like that, that you did not find any room for that in church. Like, it was okay for the minister to talk about, even the thing is called spiritual, right? Spiritual. Go ahead and talk about that, like what you found.
Right. So that was very upsetting for me as an infant or a child, like as soon as I could talk. I mean, like, seriously, I knew these things as an infant and blah, blah, blah. Because I was at a defining moment as an infant, a defining moment. Look it up. It's in my book, all these kinds of things. But I was like very much on all cylinders, and I'm getting to church and all these kinds of things. And then I'm like talking to adults, and I'm like, so you got the Holy Spirit, but you don't believe in ghosts? And they're like patting me on the head. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with you people? I mean, like, so this is my life. This is my upbringing of this whole being shut down and gaslit. But it's on purpose to keep us from being our true whole holy selves as humans. And we are a part of Creator. Creator, you are divinity. You are a spark of divinity. And that's part of what I'm trying to bring to people, is that's been shut down. And so let's go there for half a second. Like, if I only got a minute, here's the thing. Because so much of us are like, oh, we're in a calming, soothing mode. Like, I'm sorry, I'll watch Harry Potter for 20 million times as self-soothing because I don't suck my thumb anymore. But it's kind of like, that's a frequency. And we need to understand that we have a frequency, that we are powerful. Like all these memes of like, oh, you watch the hero being heroic. I write about this in my book. of like, this is the time for you to put the ruby slippers on. This is the time for you to own your freaking cape. Put your crown on. It's freaking real. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is not a joke. And this is a dividing time. And I think, I'm all about having my Doritos and watching football and having toilet paper. Exactly. But there's another part of me that's like, if there's something inside of you that says like, there's something wrong and there's something greater and I'm a part of something bigger and there's something negative and it's trying to control us. Yes, this is a part of our soul slavery. And they're using us and they use our energy and they siphon off that energy. That's what Hollywood does, like Monsters Inc. and stuff like that. They like us to be miserable. They like us to be divided. They like us to hate each other. So in my book, I go from me, about me, I tell my stories, and then I cut it off because I wasn't going to do this. So the first 3 years that I wrote my book, I was like, okay, I'm telling my story for my descendants because I didn't get to hear from my grandma. So this is for my children, and you are everybody. We're all, each other's children, whatever. But I didn't want to put in energy exercises. And then Divine Spark said, oh no, this is the one time for your voice. You have to put in your divinity exercises. And so that's what I want people to do, because if the negative people are using their rituals and all their symbols and their sigils and all these kinds of things and controlling in that way, and then we bind ourselves and say, oh, that's negative, we can't do that. I'm like, no, I'm trying to free us. Like Free Guy. Watch that movie, Free Guy. We need to understand that we need to participate. We need to wake up. Yes, your prayer is powerful. You are a divine spark and you are a whole holy human. And I'm here to try to get people to wake up and understand that when you're watching TV and all this programming, just understand that they might be programming you and be aware of the frequency. And also I've been watching a lot of concerts and going to concerts. And I see all this. One of the things I was just at a conference. It's called Full Disclosure Now. A couple of weeks ago, you were there also. And a lady was talking about spell binding and spell casting. And that is legitimately what is going on, people. So if you are in the positive power and you understand that people can cast spells and negative spells, then come on. Understand it. Understand when you are at a concert or something like that. I'm going to tell you, you're going to watch it in Hollywood and in the industry. They're trying to lull you. They're trying to get you while you're asleep into their programming and under their spell. And we need to wake up and we need to be divine sparks and we need to be whole, holy humans. And so the biggest, best thing we can do is share kindness and love. And at any time that you think like, oh, you're going to lash out at somebody, like bring down that chemical inside of you, bring it down. And just remember kindness, because that's what they want. They want us lashing out. They want us to be divided. That is not the truth. I know I go on a little bit much, but thank you.
That's okay. Terry, you had a question?
I do have a question. So Dana, you talked about the Greys. Have you had much contact with them, or when was the last time you had contact that you remember, that you recall?
This is going to sound weird.
Oh, I don't know if we're still on. When I was about, I think when I got the rose from Pat Nixon, I think that was a transition from the Greys. into other entities, and other entities took my DNA, my husband's DNA. And I think that's when my father, who worked on the supercomputer, who was at Wright-Patterson, who worked at the hangar to deconstruct and whatever you want, engineer the Roswell spacecraft. My dad was highly involved in that. So I think there was, I have all kinds of things of proof of me being swapped for alien technology, so all of that is very real. It's substantiated now, thank you God, by other people and paperwork. But it's just that, where was I going? All these things happen, and it's kind of like, what was my point? all these things happened, and it's coming. I mean, this is part of the disclosure that's for the rest of us. And yes, the aliens have been here. They've been here since the beginning of time. I've been very much aware of it. I've interacted with it. The Greys, okay, here we go. The Greys up until I was 8 years old. And then I think I was supposed to be put in the Montauk program. And that's when they, my dad said no, because he anymore. I was interrupted by other aliens. And then I was put on various spacecraft. And also that's when I was moved into, if I hadn't been before, into the Galactic Council. Because the Galactic Council, for my part, and what I did, I was not in the baking and fundraising projects. I was into witnessing and making sure that everybody was behaving themselves and watching all that. So as far as the super space program, some people were in space. I was in space. I was eyes on the ground. I was in space. I was on the water, and I was also on the airfields. So that was the work and the capacity that I did as a child. And I'm just going to tell you, that's why the pedophiles are out there, because everybody knows that children are the treasure. And that's what they are after. And I think like we all need to be aware of that and very protective of our children on so many levels, because children, I mean, their brains are epically fantastic and supercomputers. And once you get a little bit older, you're a little off. So that's why, we have to be very, very careful about our future, about our children, because they are the target. And that is what's being used, and people don't understand that. And so the Montauk children, I get it. I was saved from it. I was put into a different program. I don't know if that makes any sense.
So at some point on your page, it says Sigmund and the Sea Monster. Could you tell me about that? It just struck me as curious.
Yeah. So those are the two guys, like, or her. I mean, you can go to my Facebook page. You can go to like my pages that I have. God, I don't know where the other page. Oh, they're falling out. They're falling out. Yeah, I made some pictures. Like here's okay. Where's the one guy? Yeah, Sigmund of the Sea Monsters is about the two aliens that came, or two different types of species. So the first species that came were these guys, because I've been asked by Mr. Gray and like a bunch of other podcasters, like, well, what did they look like? And they do kind of look owlish in here. So this is, it's backwards.
Oh no, you can see it though.
So that's the wall, and this is another wall, and they're coming through a hallway. And just so you understand, there's a dome that's right underneath my house. There's a deep military underbase, and these guys might have been coming through there. So these guys woke me up. I was upside down, and they're trudging, and this little guy is like oh, are we scaring you? And I start to speak French. And when I speak French, it's very full of F words like F you. And then I like, so then I'm like, this freaky dude right here with this little freaky Speedo. These are my toes. This is my husband over here who's completely asleep, the bastard. Like every time I need him, he's like, anyway. Yeah, so I'm like, dude, I can't even like move. And he's like, you're moving. But then aliens show up and he's totally out, whatever. Anyway, so the minute like, okay, so like these space aliens showed up, blah, 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 the little logs, and they transform. I mean, I feel like I need to go back and like describe the whole scenario. Is that what I should do for a minute here? I don't know. Because these guys took my DNA and my husband's DNA, and it didn't really even realize that it took my husband's DNA, if you know what I'm talking about, until
wow.
After I was writing my book and I was talking to a girlfriend. I'm like, oh my God, like, yeah. And then this guy, and he had a little Speedo, but he's the same guy as Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So you'll see this guy, Jack Skeleton, in Hollywood. Same dude. So you see, Hollywood is always about disclosure. Anyway, so Close Encounters of the Third Kind, la la la. I'm like, okay, they came and took my eggs. This little, log-looking thing, it's about knee height. It's like, oh, are we scaring you? And I'm like, yeah. And then as soon as he started to shapeshift to look a little bit nicer, I'm like, screw you. Still not buying it. And I'm like, why are you here? F you, because that's French. And they're like, oh, we're here to save your planet. So that says to me they're off-world. But just remember, there's a deep underground military base right under my house. So, of course, they showed up. And like I said, it was not until I was like finishing writing my book. And I'm like, oh, my God, if they have my eggs, that particular night was a date night with my husband. So, of course, they have his DNA as well, which is very upsetting to me. I kind of make it a hilarious story a little bit, but it's upsetting because I'm a mom and I care about children. And then I realize that these entities have privy to everything about me and my husband. And I don't know if they're making clones or what they're doing, or making super space soldiers, or what's going on, harvesting organs. I don't even know.
Before I ask Sybil's questions, because I think we got about 3 questions, do you feel any residual effects from these visits? Have you lost any time? Had any injuries to the body? Anything that you feel like, this is how it's affecting me?
I could say that as a grown-up adult, I had an incompetent cervix, which is hilarious. But that might mean that my cervix was incompetent because of a space program. I don't know. Other people say to me, oh, you should do hypnosis. And I'm like, you know what? As I would say to the entities, screw you. I have enough recall. I don't want more. I don't care. That's on you. I don't want to remember. I remember enough. When I was a child and the Greys were visiting me, oh, yeah. And I think that's the problem today is like, I mean, even my sister would witness it. She would get upset because my sister's 7 years older than me. She was bigger than me. She could sit on me and tickle my feet, which was like really annoying and actually kind of abusive if you ask me. But after the Greys would visit me, like I had supernatural powers, and they would go away after 2 or 3 days. Now I'm a child, so I didn't sit there and vet what my supernatural powers are. But I knew I had a lot of them. And then like after 2 or 3 days, they would kind of like go away. So many times I would remember the Greys visiting me. Most often I would not remember them visiting me. But what I would remember is that I had superpowers for about 2 or 3 days. And I thought that was super cool. Now, did I sit and vet them through my whole life? No. But like I said in the one, it's called Seminole Seminar, which is a chapter in my book, that was very much upsetting to me because, like I said, I transformed an entire event conference room holographically. I had no idea that I could do that. So I don't know who I am. Like, I don't want to say I'm a hybrid or something like that, but I don't know. I don't know.
And that's okay. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So what Sybil wanted to know, why didn't your dad send you to Montauk? What do you feel that was the purpose? Do you have any?
Why didn't he send me to Montauk? Why would you send your child to Montauk?
but
yeah,
because you said you had a different, I mean,
right.
So answer that. Like, was he being protective of you? Did you feel
yes.
a lot of love and nurturing from your parents?
Yes. My dad freaking loved me. So here's the thing. My mom, okay, so my brother's 14 years older, my sister's 7 years older, and apparently I was told by my lovely sister that my mom didn't want any more children, but that my dad did. But so when the CIA guy gave me, and it's right here, the file about my dad that talks about him talking to NASA, being at Wright-Patterson and all this kind of stuff, that started in 1960, this file. I was born in 62. So I think that at a certain period of time, all this negotiating and stuff like that started to happen. And I do think it was my birth was negotiated. Because apparently, I mean, hello, 14 years and 7 years, my mother completely knew how to stay non-pregnant, right? That's what I would say. And suddenly she found herself pregnant. She didn't want me. My dad did. So what does that say? And then so here we are, and I'm born, and the great aliens are visiting me right out of the birth because, like, I'm in the crib, and I remember it. I'm in my diapers. I completely remember that. That's when my defining moment, that's when I became awake. I'm probably 6 months old, 9 months old. And then that plethora started to happen and all the weird powers, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to say that. It's just like the sloth of like whatever, just being around these guys. It's just a frequency thing, and then pay that all forward,
You triggered something in me because, Terry, it is very normal on TV shows, right? That kids say, you're adopted. Even one of my friends, she looks completely different from all her other brothers and sisters. She's a different height, weight, different color, different texture hair. She had 3 marks on her foot when she was born. Like they did put some kind of shots in her foot. Do you feel that when they were saying this, that they were letting you know that you were some type of experimental child? Because now, think about it, Terry. What do they do? Put it on TV. So it becomes a normal thing on television for kids to say, you're adopted. You're not one of us. So that we think, oh, these kids are lying. But these siblings may not be lying. These siblings may be saying, we don't know where you came from. That's why we have this, these weird relationships and weird.
Yeah, that's why I think my sister and brother hated me. They hate me to this day. Basically, we are whatever, very, very different. I couldn't even have a Barbie. I was not allowed to have a Barbie because or whatever, because my sister had Ken and Barbie and Skipper. So I was allowed Midge, which I'm like, kind of thank you. Because I'm like, she's from Puerto Rico and she hung out at the bars. She's my girl. I'm like, that girl had a heavy eyeliner and stuff like that. I'm like, Midge, thank you. But I mean, like, yeah, I was like totally an outcast. My sister would tell me, I was like, you're adopted. You're not from here. You're not us and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's true. And going through all of that, it just was very, very upsetting because I didn't feel like I was with any other people. And seriously, I went to a shaman, you know, in my like 40s or something like that. And she goes, "Oh, I did a soul retrieval. Like I do a lot of, I started soul searching. Anyway, I did a soul retrieval." And she's like, "Oh, you're about 10 years old and you're sitting on the roof of a house." And I'm like, "Oh, snap. I know what that's about." And I'm like, "Yeah, I was at a slumber party and guess what happened? I could levitate people up to the ceiling. We don't even touch them. Yeah, where'd that come from?" You know, and to me, it was kind of like, because that's how we built the pyramids, you know? Um, so I always felt like connected to Atlantean times or something, ancient times and old times. I feel like I'm a traveler from a different world, and I've been told by other psychic readers, like, "Ooh, you're so far back. Like, I don't even know where you come from. You're so far back." And I think I've traveled there, and in my book, to the edge of space, because we think this is a like we think space goes on forever, but it's encapsulated, just like every cell. Every cell is encapsulated. Every atom is encapsulated, and so is the earth. It's encapsulated. It's all these circles within circles within circles within circles. And I just happen to come from, it's not like it's a big deal. It's not a big deal. There's others like me, but I just come from the edge of this encapsulated time and space, which is beyond and the end of the galaxy. And yeah, and I don't really tell people these things, but you know, that's the truth. Because it's hard for people to understand that. And, you know, and you're weird. So that's why I call my book, "This is going to sound weird."
Okay. Terry wanted to know, how did you discover the dumb under your house? Like, did you do later research on it, or?
Nope. And here's the thing, and I talked about it at the disclosure. However, I didn't, you know, it's hard for me to discuss it, but here's the thing. Okay. So my dad, who I think I put into this military program, blah, blah, blah. It's a long story. He's an electrical engineer. He's working on the supercomputer. And when I was at the same time when I transitioned from being with the Greys to the next level and being with the super space program where they collect loosh and all this kind of stuff, he had quit his job, is what he told us, the family. But then at his funeral in 2010, a man came up to me and my sister and he goes, "Oh, I don't know what happened to your dad. He's a genius. I don't know why they fired him." And I looked at my sister and I'm pointing at her like, "I'm telling you, I was traded for alien technology." This is in the middle of my dad's funeral. He's being put into the back of the hearse and this man's telling us this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, there's confirmation right there. Yeah, my dad was part of the supercomputer. Why did they fire him? But then recently, like a couple months ago, when the CIA agent, who I'm thinking is working for disclosure, handed me the file, he's an IT guy, never met my dad, all these kinds of things. And he says to me, "I wish I knew your dad. I wish I worked with him." Dude, why are you saying these things? What's going on here? La, 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 la. You know, anyway. So all these things are unraveling. And it just speaks to me about all the programs and programming that's going on in this realm that we're unaware of. You know, we sit here and we're entertained like Rome, like we're at the Colosseum. And truly, I do care about toilet paper and Doritos. And, you know, I don't care about sports, but whatever. I'll watch Housewives or something. But it's kind of like we're being confused. We're being asleep. We don't know what our powers are. But the whole time, I'm kind of like, no, this is not what's going on. You know, you need to wake up, everybody. You know, so that's kind of why I'm out here. I don't want to be out here. I want to deny everything that's happened to me. And like I was going to say, the Sigmund and Sea Monster guys, when I saw the guy, because his hips are only about this big, so he is Jack Skeleton. He is the guy in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Boop, 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 boop. Well, I had a finger for him. But anyway, because like all the little babies are coming out of the spaceship at the bay door. I've worked at the bay door. I did that crap. I don't get a pension from the government. I should, because they used me as a child on their space program ships. But yeah, so I didn't remember him until I saw him as an adult, and then I remembered making drawings of this stupid stick man, and then I would rock back and forth and kind of laugh as a trauma effect, because consciously I didn't remember this guy, which I think is true for most people. They don't remember their alien encounters. But seeing these guys in this moment and the dumb underneath us. Okay, so let's go back. My sister, who was a dental hygienist, didn't have a college degree, all of a sudden, boop, was an engineer for Honeywell. Honeywell. My sister was picked up for an engineering degree at Honeywell. Who does that? I would like to have that. And so she's an engineer, and then all of a sudden she's having to, and she doesn't want me to talk about this. She's delivering paperwork to, here it is. It's called the TCAAP, which is the Twin Cities Army Armory plant in Arden Hills. Look it up. It's 35W, Highway 96 in Lexington. Black Hawk helicopters fly in and out there, or they used to, up until the Biden and Trump administration switched. But I could hear them underneath. I could hear the TV. I could hear them talking. I heard them all night long in my basement. And my sister was delivering by hand papers to the plant, but in a broke down, derelict gate system, because nobody worked there. And there's only one level buildings there. But my sister, she's like, oh, and then I went down into the, like in the elevators. I'm like, what elevators? She thought it was like a basement. So in her world, it was a basement. I'm like, freaking tunnels. You wake up, tunnels. Because she's like, oh yeah, they're riding bikes and golf carts, it's huge. But now she's like, she doesn't even like hardly remember it anymore. She said to me recently, no, you told me about that. And I'm like, oh, neural link, boop, much. I'm like, I didn't tell you that. You told me that. So all of these things are going on. And, back in the 70s, like we had this whole heroin pipeline, Minnesota pipeline with children, all these kinds of things. There's a lot of women that go missing in the Twin Cities area, especially up in Duluth, Superior, a lot of Native American women and everything. So yeah, these things are going on. We're trying, and I want to be a part of shutting all that down, missing people, because, what's happening to them, such as my own children, that I don't know anything about.
Is that something, are you worried about the future when it comes to being tracked, being used? Because I do believe that even as a person who's in the program, like definitely I feel like people's parents have to be involved. Like, like there's some type of consent, but then whatever alter side of yourself or fragments have you possibly even consented for your own children, or
so here's the deal
about your own children when it comes to that?
No, here's the thing. We have to go to zero point. We have to go to source. And here's the thing. We have to, what they're trying, because they are AI, they're artificial intelligence, and I met AI in my book and I described that. But what we have to do is keeping whole, holy humans, because what they're trying to use, we are creators. They can't create. They want to create a dystopian outcome. But if we keep inside of us the positivity, if we keep Gaia in charge, if we still are connected to the plants and the farms and not pharma, if we can connect to Earth as a being and keep it green and keep positive and not let them control us in our thoughts, that's how we win. That's how we win. When we sit and watch these TV shows of dystopia and just like bad negativity, that's an implant. And they're trying to implant that into our psyche so then they can use that. But if we try to keep being holy humans and work in kindness, and you can watch these things, but know and understand under a guise of protection that you can witness it, but don't embrace it. Don't let them create it, because that's what they're trying to do. They can't create. We can. Don't let them use us because we're asleep, if that makes sense.
It totally does. And I guess one of the last questions that I had was, you said that they delivered to you the file for your father. How did that come about? What was the purpose of them delivering your file, and what is your plan to do with it? Like, what's the...
Well, it's right here. Here it is, and I have it on and look how clean it is. Look how clean it is. See these edges? Yeah, this file was supposedly stuck for over 30 years in the back of a desk. Well, I'm telling you, my kids are 30 years. And if you go into the back of like their drawers or something, there's like felt growing back there. Yeah. So that's bullshit. So he told me all this like Swiss cheese story. What happened was, because God, thank you, God. Thank you, Source Energy. I don't answer my phone if I don't know the phone number, because, you get all the spam and stuff like that. But on this particular moment, on this particular day, I was expecting a call from a healthcare facility. I'd call the doctor. So I was expecting a call. So I was like, oh, okay, here comes this, 952 number. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick it up because it's obviously, Alina Health or whoever, Blue Cross, whoever. So I picked it up. And it's a dude. And he's like, hey, don't hang up. And he's panicked. Don't hang up. I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm like, okay. I'm like, chill. And he's like, do you know? And then he says my dad's name. I'm like, yeah. Because now I get a little suspicious. And he's like, and then he told me the biggest lie. Oh, I bought a desk from Spare Univac 30 years ago. Spare Univac didn't exist 30 years ago. And I was just cleaning out the back of the drawers. And I found this file on your dad. Or I found some papers or whatever. And my wife said I should just throw it out. But I thought maybe I should give it to you. But here are the specific dates and times that you can come and see me. Because I'm a CIA agent. My wife doesn't understand it. I mean, legitimately, it's a CIA folder. It's secret documents about my dad. And this was just like in February or March of this year. And it was kind of like, and this was after I probably did my MUFON talk and all this kind of stuff. So somebody else told me that's a whistleblower. They're like, oh, the Alliance sees you. And I know I work with the white hats. Not that I care about the white hats, because I don't exactly trust them. I don't trust... I don't know. I do and I don't. I do and I don't. I do and I don't. But I'm like, oh, dude, you're a CIA guy that's hoping for disclosure. Because this guy, like I was saying, he's like, oh, I wish I worked with your dad. I'm like, well, were you an electrical engineer? And he's like, no, I was an IT guy. So then when I went home and talked to my husband, I'm like, oh, so he's an IT guy. And he messed up all his dates and times and all this kind of stuff. Is like such a baloney lie. And even my husband, that's a muggle, he's a normie. And he goes, my husband would never admit this because he wants to think I'm a Lulu. He's like, this doesn't make any sense. That's the most profound statement he's made in the last 33 years. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, true enough. This does not make any sense, right? Yeah.
You don't tell your husband no slang. You just be like, holy shit. Okay. So
Well,
even
it's true.
he is like, this is insane. Like,
yeah. Well, okay. So I just have to say, to be clear, I never told my husband. I mean, like, this is entrapment. I never told him about UFOs or that I've seen ghosts or been to heaven or aliens or shadow people. Like, I didn't tell him the realm that he was going to be marrying into. Hell no. Why would you do that? Because I mean, just to be fair, I was trying to suppress it. Suppress. This shit ain't real. It ain't happening. And so, I'm in my early 20s. Isn't that what you do? And then, like now I'm 62. I'm like, screw it. I gotta like come out with this stuff. Like, why am I suppressing this? My children need to know. My descendants need to know. And everybody, I've been told by other readers and all this, like, you're supposed to write this book. I'm like, I was always like, what about what? What am I like? Duh. Because that's how much I suppress this stuff. I tried to pretend like I'm normal. I'm not like, it's okay. Everything's normal. And yeah, so things happen to me, very shocking things happen to me, and I'm kind of like, oh, that's just normal. And I was sitting there watching Harry Potter one day, like 5 years ago now. And I'm like, Harry Potter, excuse me, I shit bigger than you. Like, what the hell, whatever. And then I was kind of like, yeah, Dana, you know what? Maybe that's your book. If Harry Potter's day is boring to you, then maybe that's your book. And I was kind of like, okay, fine. All right. So I stopped my business and just started. And this is in 2019, before the pandemic. And I thought it was going to take 9 months because if you lived it, you should be able to write it. But on the frequency basis of thought, word, and deed, because I am a whole holy human, I couldn't sit down to write unless I was in the frequency of giving to you, and it's going to make me cry, giving to you all the best that I have. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Man, that just, it seems, this person had your father's folder, but somehow they found you. Did you see any information about yourself inside his folder? I mean, because this calls the question, did he give you everything? Hell no, of course not. Doubt it. But that's my first thought. And this is why I say, does this disturb you? Does it bother you that
No, it's calming to me. It is a CIA file, and there's secret papers. I mean, they're called classified and all that kind of stuff, and they're government papers. And but it's also a lot of papers that seemed as if they were swiped off his desk. One is from, I think, was his secretary, that explains in a letter, I don't know how to describe you to my husband, blah, 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 all these kinds of things. It was very supportive to me. It was like everything that I thought knew, and because I had prayed. My parents were heavily involved in politics and stuff like that. Another part of all this. And I was like, oh, Hubert Humphrey, because my parents were Republican. Hubert Humphrey was a Democrat, but they were congenial. Hubert Humphrey knew my mother's name on a first name basis, even though he'd only met her like 1 or 2 times. But she was tickled pink. She's like, how does he remember my name and all this kind of stuff? And I was like, man, my dad died in 2010. I'm like, that was just such a cacophony of just, I didn't even know how to take care of them. I didn't even get to keep any of our Christmas decorations because everything happened. It was destruction. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I just had a picture of my dad with Hubert Humphrey. And then here come like all these proofs of Hubert Humphrey and my dad, like things swiped off his desk, like Christmas lists, like the Christmas lists, just weird shit, like things like, we can hang this over your head at any time stuff. But what it said to me is like, oh, and I know I've been watched. Hello, CIA people. Hi, everybody from the FBI. I know you've been watching me and all this time, and you listen on my phone, and I know I talk to you, but hi, you can come by. Let's do coffee. I get it. Anytime. So this is one of these guys, because they do listen to you, and I can hear them. I can't hear them on this like StreamYard, but whenever I'm on Zoom, I can hear them clicking. I can hear them on my cell phone. I mean, my whole life, I've been watched, heard, listened to the CIA and the FBI and followed. Why? I just want to be a suburbanite. I just want to be a mom. I just want to make cookies. I don't want any involvement, but here I am. It sucks.
Well, I kind of wonder, realistically, listening to your story, I mean, you'll always be an asset. You know what I mean? That's kind of...
I don't know. I feel like I'm late.
Realistically. So for their sake, I would think they see you as an asset for the future.
Yeah.
For your sake, you're claiming your sovereignty.
Yeah.
So you're claiming your sovereignty.
Yeah.
And so I understand that for you that it's like, no, but
yeah.
I guess the purpose of this whole thing is, not releasing assets. I don't know, Terry, did you have any thoughts on that? But you're on mute, but
yeah. No, I'm just that it's interesting is if we are at a point of disclosure, then perhaps there's a certain aspect that wants to have people's story come out. And so,
right.
Where you may have been, had a barrier put up before, maybe the people who are working with, well, let's just use the term white hats. They want these stories to come out. And so they will encourage you. They're not giving you all the information you need or everything that's happened. Perhaps your father was put in a situation where he really didn't have choices to what he had to do. So maybe he was part of a program as well. And, and so then you end up being part of that program, and he wanted another child, but maybe he was told he was having another one. Who knows? We don't know all the answers, right?
Right. But and I think because my dad, I believe, was like a mentoring candidate because he was in Korea, and that's a whole long another story about how all of that kind of thing. But yeah, so I was created probably under this program, all these kinds of things. I want to be in denial of who and how I am or how I came to be, all of these things. Secondly, I stay quiet for, I kind of almost feel like far too long because as I am outgoing and seem to be outgoing, there's much trepidation for me because I know how big the stakes are, which I don't mean to be rude, but like, I don't think a lot of people understand how big the stakes are. And I'm trying to like come out with this disclosure. However, number one, everybody's like, oh, gray aliens. Gray aliens cannot function in this frequency, just so you know. It's kind of like being a scuba diver. It's a different frequency. It's a different vibration. And most of the aliens I've encountered need a certain frequency. And our 3D dense frequency is not conducive to many other entities. And I shall say that many benevolent ones, that's why they can't really come here and be here at this time and protect us and all these kinds of things. It's just it's a frequency thing. It's kind of like being in the ocean. You know what I mean? You have to understand and look at nature and how things work in nature, which is also what was comforting to me as a child. Was like, I would dig in the dirt and I'm like, oh, look at this earthworm. And I call us earthworms because I'm like, look at this earthworm. And right now I'm sitting in a house and there's worms underneath me. These worms do not understand Doritos and toilet paper and football. They just don't. And can't humans just be as benighted? Yes, because nature is circular and all these things wrap into each other. So, yes, we think we're so, enlightened, but we are benighted. We don't understand the different levels that live on top of us, with us, or around us, or what's going on, all these kinds of things. And it's been upsetting. I want to say upsetting, but also why I denied it, because I've been privy to this stuff since 1962. And I've been waiting for people to come around. But now I feel as if like I'm too late to the party. Like, I'm just a voice in the ocean, and that's fine, so I can just go back next month and just keep playing pickleball. And now I can finally be the suburbanite housewife that nobody pays attention to, because I don't think I'm a threat anymore. But the only threat that I have is my voice of saying we need to remember who we are, especially those that are religious, that just don't understand that their prayers are meaningful, that you are an important person. We all, play such an important role. And, we have to take that into our hearts, that you are a whole holy human. And I'm trying to, that's the only part of my voice.
Yeah. But your voice is very important. Like everybody's voice, there's no one voice that's more important than anyone else's. So by you sharing this, you touch a lot of people, and you're touching people that you don't realize.
Yes, and I appreciate that, and I will say that is true. Just like an earthworm is down in the dirt, I'm down in the dirt, and I'm benighted. I don't know. I just wiggle around and make drill holes and keep on moving, and I'm soft and squishy.
So is that the life that you want, though? You said you want to go back to basically the basics, because you say, when you say Doritos and toilet paper,
Yeah.
It's just like, is that where you want to be? It's safe.
No, that's safe. I mean, my dream for myself would be that I could travel and be supportive, because I don't have the money to go. Like, I went to Florida. That was on my dime. That was like a 1-star shoot thing. There's part of me like, that'll never happen again. You'll never have the money to do that or whatever, so it's kind of like, oh, you gave it your best shot. That's all you can do. You put your book out there. I've probably made $200 in the last year, because, book sales, at the conference, I sold one book. So I made $10, it's kind of like, this is not a thing of money making. You're not going to make any money. You can save souls, but you're not going to make any money doing it, which is pretty much a reverse thing, like energetically. My dream would be, if I sold enough books that I could help my children pay for their student loans. I'm like, I have very small needs. Like, I don't know. Maybe I don't ask for enough, but it's kind of like, it's been a lot. I mean, just understand, it's a trauma effect. Like, I grew up with aliens over my crib. I don't have memories of my mom over my crib. I have memories of aliens over my crib. That's a very different thing. Oh, and I just should add that before I even wrote my book, there was on Facebook like, people you may know. And it's like the little girl that lived behind me. We're in our 50s now. I reached out to her and we met up for cocktails and stuff like that. And all of a sudden I was like, and she's the most normal person. In fact, it's Jenny Jo. She wrote her thing on the back of my book, like, and thank you to all the witnesses and people who support me. But anyway, and I started to talk to her about, Jenny, like I was an infant, and I remember there was this humming and vibrations, and there was these aliens, and the whole time I'm saying this out loud, my voice is like, don't say this, she's a normal person, she's never going to talk to you again, she's going to think you're a freak and all this kind of stuff. And instead of all of these things happening, she reached out to me, she put her hand on top of mine, and she said, Dana, I remember it. I remember the vibrations.
Oh,
I remember
wow.
the sound. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you're a witness to me? You're confirming me? And she's like, absolutely. And so when I wrote my book, I reached out to Jenny Jo, and I'm like, first of all, can I use your real name? And she's like, yeah. And secondly, I'm like, can you write a blip for my book? Because I'm like, I really need the support of witnesses, because many witnesses won't come forward because they're afraid. And she said, absolutely. And so the woman that also lives down the end of the block, who saw the chip coming out of my neck, the microchip, she supports me as well. And just so you know, that's not the first implant that I've had. There's another secondary chapter, like one of the first 3 chapters, where I got scooped my buttocks by some gray aliens during the day. And it wasn't until I was writing the book that all of a sudden I remembered, I'm like, holy shit, excuse my language, that property, just a few houses down from our house, was my dad's boss's house. So of course the gray aliens were there, but that happened during the midday. I think it was a different troop, but that was a scoop. And I cannot tell you factually if the scoop, whatever happened there, was the same implant that came out of my neck. I don't know. And that's what I say quite honestly and frankly in my book. I'm like, I don't know. I have more questions than answers. I'm not here to answer people's questions. I have more questions, and all I can do is be a resource for community, because I do want to create community of that. Hey, your voice. If you've experienced something, hey, I'm here. I've experienced some weird things too. Don't think you're weird. I'm probably weirder. I'm here to support you. And in fact, if I don't know what happened to you, maybe there's somebody that I do know. And I have connected people. Like, hey, you know what? Your story sounds familiar. Well, I'm going to connect you to one of my friends. And then you guys get together and talk about this stuff. Because this is, again, kindness, connection, community, confirmation, all these things. That's what we're here for. This is how we win against this negativity, against this people who are trying to suppress us and keep us into slavery on this planet.
What a statement. Terry, did you have any final thoughts or anything that you wanted to ask or share?
Well, Dana, this is quite a journey that you undertook when you wrote this book. And I sense that you have another book coming out.
People keep saying that. People keep saying that.
Because you have a lot of stuff there that you've asked a lot of questions, and now you're on a journey, and you're bringing us along on your journey. And so it's very for you to do that. We all have a story to tell, and your story is important, and you will have people who are on your cruise ship with you. So
you're funny that you're saying that, because and thank you, because like everybody's like, oh, there's a second book, and I'm like, about what? Is it about, does it start with my dad? Like I don't know, like legit, like the first book, I'm like, oh, there's a book to write. Like I'm in such denial about it. Like I'm just gonna say, I'm honest with my foibles. I don't understand. And it's kind of like, what would I write about next? But I mean, like, would anybody want to care or listen? Because I just feel like I'm whispering into the wind right now. Like, no, it doesn't matter. But all that matters is to me that I spoke out loud.
Yeah, and it'll come. It's coming. Just trust your guidance. Trust your heart.
Thanks.
I think for what it makes me think or feel is that you have to be gentle with yourself, and if it's there, you'll just write, and you'll find healing while writing. And a lot of the things, it's funny, the thing that we do for love isn't necessarily the thing that we do for money.
Right.
So it's very difficult, because what you do is for the love of life and living life to the fullest. It's not necessarily the thing that will um you'll find fortune in it. um but just be open to being sustained by the creator, because you have a heart that wants to help people, a heart that wants to help people remain empowered, and a heart that wants to help people feel welcomed and feel safe. And in that, opportunities to be blessed are coming for you. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we look to the left, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing, but also be open to these unexpected. And so open your mind up to what is unexpected and unseen, and not necessarily the obvious, to where, why did I write the book? It's really hard sometimes when we're doing the things that we love to be like, where are we going with this? Why did I make this decision? Why am I driven to do these things? But trusting that you're driven and you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. And there's a reason behind it. And you're on your soul's path, and you've given yourself the clues ahead of time, like these little clues, the breadcrumbs that show that you're on the right trail. And so allow yourself time, and allow yourself to be in the space and present with your Doritos and your toilet paper, and be and just be, like, because I'm present in this moment, and I have to take a nap, and I'm gonna give my husband a good night kiss, and
Right.
but here we are, these multidimensional beings. We're always doing something, even when we're doing nothing. And I think it's hard for people to accept that. Like, it's okay for you to do nothing at this moment, because even in your doing nothing, you're still doing a lot. We're very busy little souls around here, very busy little souls. So do not doubt this at all, that you are far busier than what you think. Therefore, you can rest like, I'm okay. I'm in the right space, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well,
And I can give myself a break. With demanding so much from myself and expecting so much from myself, but it's something is coming for you.
Oh, thank you. But you're telling that to an Aries Cancer moon, because it's like I always have to be, I want to be busy. I want to be active. I want to be working. I want to be constructive. I want to be helping. I want to be doing all these things. And it's kind of like, even my husband would be like, "So what are you doing now? Nothing." And that just seems shocking to me, but I mean, I feel like that's all I'm like, okay, maybe this is my one shot. And then because I don't want to push, I'm a good manifester. I've never wanted to push. And it's kind of like, but it's also that this is like my like, dude, this is the path that you put before me. And now I feel like I'm manifesting almost the least. I mean, that's why it feels to me sometimes. You wrote the book, like, well, what am I doing? Going and playing pickleball every day? Like, that can't be my life, because like now that I'm out here, that can't be my life to go back in the closet. I'm like, no, I'm like, okay, but it's kind of like TikTok even shuts me down. I can't even do hashtags. Like, I'm so shut down, and there's so many egos out there. I'm kind of like, I don't like this. It's kind of like, I put my voice out there. I'm too late to the party. I'll just eat the last edges of the bowl of the dip, and I'll just go back and be like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" I don't know what to do. I'm lost. I'm very lost.
I got something for everybody. Francis, or Florence. I always call this lady Francis, but Florence Scovel Shinn. All that is mine by divine right is now released and reaches me in great avalanches of abundance, under grace in miraculous ways. Francis or Florence Scovel Shinn says that what is yours by divine right cannot be taken away.
Yeah,
What is
and maybe
yours
this
by
is it,
divine
and that's
right
fine. Yeah, and
cannot
that
be taken
yeah.
away.
Yeah, and it is. I got my voice out there. I did my book, and maybe that's it. And we're done for the day then. I mean, maybe that's just it. I'll just go play pickleball. I put my voice, I put it out there, and I can walk
Well,
away. I mean, that's how I feel.
in that process, if you playing pickleball, if you're supposed to do something else, you'll be pushed to do it. It's just knowing it, feeling it,
Yeah.
just know it. So go play pickleball, girl. Get you
Right, but
some
I mean, I'm an
Doritos and have
Aries, so I
fun.
feel like I need to be working. I feel like I need to be doing so. You know what I mean? I mean, I feel like I need to be contributing or working because my husband's still working, and he's like, "What did you do all day?" I can't be like, "Oh, And at the same time, it's like I'm 62 years old. Like it could be over with. Tomorrow, is there something I need to say or do or something like that? I'm like, what am I supposed to do, God? Like, what is my next act? Like, give me a time card, like whatever. I just feel very lost. And that's I don't like that, I like to, I always worked a job. I was a union person. I'm like, you show up, you do your work, you work hard, blah, blah, blah. Like, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, you just might need some help to release some of that, just release it.
Yeah, I can, but I mean, I'm just explaining. You guys are like my therapists right now. You guys are my therapists right now. I'm just showing you and sharing with you my emotions and stuff like that. This isn't like my normal thing,
right?
But it's kind of like,
we're addressing it. But we're addressing it because you're not the only one. Like we're all suffering with this because we've been indoctrinated into a system that,
expects.
Almost like,
and that's what I'm trying to say.
It's like hammer, constantly doing busy.
Right, Aries Sun, Cancer Moon. So la 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 la. So this is, and it's like, I do. Here I am. I'm coming out. I hope I'll be heard. I mean, like, if nothing else, maybe I'll have grandchildren. Because by the time they're old enough, I don't know where I'll be at. So it's kind of like this is my shot in the dark, and for humanity, like all these things that happened to me, somebody might want to hear it. And so I finally got it out there. And thank you guys for having me on your show. And if somebody hears me, I'm glad. I mean, because that, I'm a mom, and like that's what you do. You go and you do like the school things or whatever, help your kids at the at school, and there's some child that seems a little lost and you help them out. That's just kind of like, that's how I feel. I'm like, hey, if there's some way I can help you up, based on something that I know, that's all I have, so anyway, I thank you guys. Thank you for allowing me to come and cry.
Well, it's been that kind of day. It's been
I think it's all these retrogrades and stuff like that that's going on. Aren't we supposed to be clearing all this stuff right now?
So how can people find you, Dana?
Oh, well, my book, like I said, here we go.
Oh, I put it on the screen a couple of times.
It's called, this is gonna sound weird. That's me in Norway. That's me. Because like Miles was like, oh, you should put your picture on there. I'm like, dude, that is me. That's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, even though they shut me down. They both do. I'm on TikTok under This Is Gonna Sound Weird. I have a YouTube, This Is Gonna Sound Weird. I'm Dana Louise on Facebook, and I'm DanaLouise.com, which you can find pretty much most things.
We put that on the screen a couple of times.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to be so weepy. I think it's just like this whole retrograde.
It's par for the day.
Right. Or this energy and the solar flares and, oh my God, this reality show that we're living in. And I mean, whatever. And
that's why I slept so hard. My face was hurting. So because I cried and then fell asleep. So it was like, oh, anyway, that's why I think I was so disoriented this morning before the show. I was like, I cried and then I lost all sense of composure. Anyway.
Well, it was kind of like this morning. I'm like, oh, you did mean today? Because I'm like, we also had the 13th. And I was like, I'm so confused. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be confused. But
that was totally my fault. But yeah. Okay. So we're going to fly out, you guys, and we'll see you
Thank
later.
you, everybody. Thanks, Terry, Erica. Thank you so much, Erica. I'm so blessed to have met you. I super appreciate it. Thank you for holding space for me and all of us. Like, thank you. Amen. Thank you, you guys. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everybody.